For a man who had heard it all, Elon Musk thought nothing could surprise him anymore. He was wrong. That night, as the world slept, he sat alone in his office, drowning in work. The silence was familiar, almost comforting. His mind was deep in calculations, projections, blueprints of the future. Then it happened. A sound that shouldn't have been possible. His private phone rang. Not his work line. Not his public number. The phone only a handful of people had access to. The one that never rang unless it was an emergency. Elon's fingers hovered over the device. The screen glowed in the dim light. Unknown caller. He frowned. That wasn't supposed to happen. His system flagged, traced, and identified every call. Yet here it was. An anomaly, a breach, an unanswered question waiting in the dark. 5 rings. 6. By the 7th, he picked up. Hello. Silence. Then a breath. A faint crackle on the line. A voice followed. Warped. Low. Almost a whisper. I have something that belongs to you. Elon sat up straight. His grip on the phone tightened. Who is this? Something you didn't even know was missing. Before he could respond, the call cut off. His laptop screen flickered. A notification. A new email. No sender. No subject. Just an image. A journal. Old. Leather-bound. With his name embossed on the cover. He had never seen it before. At the bottom of the email, a message. An address. Oakland. His phone buzzed again. One more text. Come alone. 1 hour. Elon exhaled. Logic told him to ignore it. Call security. Walk away. But deep down, he already knew he wouldn't. Elon stared at the phone screen, his mind racing. He had seen his share of strange messages, but this was different. The journal, the secrecy, the urgency, none of it made sense. His instinct told him to call Dominic, his head of security. That was the logical move. If this was a threat, they had protocols. But something held him back. If this was a trap, why go through such an elaborate setup? He pulled up the address on his screen. Oakland, a part of the city he rarely visited. His gut told him this was personal. If he sent a team, whoever was behind this would vanish. Elon exhaled and made his decision. He walked to his closet, pushing aside tailored suits and crisp shirts. In the back, he kept a section of plain clothes, for moments when he wanted to disappear. A black hoodie, faded jeans, worn sneakers. He grabbed them without hesitation. At his desk, he opened a drawer and pulled out an untraceable phone, one used for situations where privacy mattered. He dialed a number. I need a car. No drivers. No tracking. A pause. Then the voice on the other end replied, 5 minutes. Side entrance. Elon ended the call. By the time he stepped outside, a sleek, gray Tesla was waiting. No security detail. No cameras. Exactly as requested. Sliding into the driver's seat, he checked his phone again. Another message. Come alone. Or don't come at all. He gripped the wheel. Whoever this was, they knew him well. The city lights blurred past as he drove. Towering buildings gave way to smaller houses, then rundown storefronts. He left behind his world of innovation and power and entered a place where people fought just to get by. His fingers tapped the steering wheel. Logic told him to turn around. But something deeper, the same thing that had pushed him to build rockets, reinvent industries, and take risks no one else would, kept him going. Ahead, the GPS announced, destination in 2 miles. Elon glanced at the clock. 12:47 a.m. 13 minutes left. He tightened his grip and pressed the accelerator. Elon slowed the car as he approached the destination. The streets were quieter here, lined with dimly lit storefronts and closed businesses. A laundromat flickered with an old neon sign, its light barely cutting through the darkness. He scanned the buildings. No warehouses, no private residences. Just a modest, unmarked structure wedged between a corner store and a barbershop. The only sign of life was a single illuminated window. He pulled into a parking spot across the street and turned off the engine. The silence felt heavier now. His phone buzzed. We're waiting inside. Elon let out a slow breath. He wasn't sure what he expected. some abandoned lot, maybe a hidden facility, but this? It looked like a place meant to help people, not hide secrets. He stepped out, shutting the car door softly. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of the ocean mixed with the city's grit. A street lamp overhead flickered. As he crossed the road, he noticed a small sign above the entrance. Painted, slightly worn, but still readable. Horizon House, where new beginnings start. Not a business, not a trap, community center. His footsteps echoed as he reached the door. A handwritten note was taped to the glass. "Mr. Musk, please come in." He pushed the door open. A bell above it chimed, soft and familiar, like an old bookstore. Inside, the space was warm, lived in. The scent of books and faint traces of paint filled the air. Walls were covered in children's drawings, some done in crayon, others with careful brushstrokes. Small tables were arranged with puzzles, paper, and learning materials. This was a place built for kids. Yet, at this hour, it was nearly empty. Nearly. At the far end of the room, behind a simple wooden desk, sat an elderly woman. Silver hair pulled into a neat bun. Sharp, intelligent eyes behind thin-framed glasses. She looked up, unsurprised. "You made good time," she said, her voice steady. Elon studied her, waiting. She didn't look afraid. She wasn't in a rush. Whoever she was, she had planned this moment. "You called me?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, but I approved the contact." He glanced around the room again. Every detail suggested a place built with care, not deception. "What is this place?" "Horizon House," she said. "A school, a refuge, a second chance for those who need it." Her eyes met his, and, she added, "The reason you're here tonight." Elon folded his arms. "Start talking." She gestured to the chair across from her desk. "It's a long story." Elon glanced at the time. 12:58 a.m. Something told him the night was far from over. Elon sat down, watching the elderly woman across from him. Her posture was straight, her expression unreadable. She folded her hands on the desk and studied him for a moment before speaking. "My name is Magdalena Flores. I run this place," she said. "And you, Mr. Musk, have been connected to it for longer than you realize." Elon leaned back, crossing his arms. "I've never heard of Horizon House before tonight." She nodded as if she expected that answer. "That's because the person who built it never wanted recognition. Her name was Clara Barrett." Elon frowned. The name meant nothing to him. He searched his memory, trying to place it, but came up blank. "She was a janitor," Magdalena continued, "at one of your first companies, more than 20 years ago." Elon's mind clicked into gear. He had worked through countless nights in those early days, buried in code, fighting to keep his startup afloat. He barely noticed anything outside his screen. "She worked the night shift," Magdalena said, "while you stayed late, talking to yourself, solving impossible problems. She was there, emptying your trash, wiping your whiteboards, listening." Elon's brows furrowed. "Listening," Magdalena nodded. "And taking notes." She reached for the leather journal that had brought him here. Carefully, she placed it in front of him. "This is hers," she said. Elon hesitated, then picked it up. The leather was worn, its corners softened by time. His name was embossed on the front, but the handwriting inside wasn't his. He flipped through the pages. The ink had faded in places, but the words were clear, detailed observations, technical diagrams, problem-solving notes. Then he saw something that made his breath catch. A sentence, written neatly on the side of a page. "Check the connection string parameters." Elon stared at it. He knew this sentence. Decades ago, in the middle of a crisis, he had found a simple handwritten note on his desk with those exact words. It had led to a breakthrough that saved weeks of work. At the time, he had assumed it was from a team member. Slowly, he looked up at Magdalena. "She wrote those?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "She did," Magdalena confirmed. She knew technology. She had studied computer science before life took her in a different direction. When she overheard your struggles, she helped. Quietly, in the only way she could. Elon turned the pages, scanning more entries. They weren't just casual thoughts. They were precise technical insights, solutions, observations, even alternative approaches to problems he had wrestled with for months. "She never told anyone?" he asked. "No," Magdalena said. "She didn't want recognition. She wanted to contribute. And later, she found a different way to do that." Elon kept reading. Near the middle of the journal, the notes shifted. They weren't about his company's technical problems anymore. They were about something else, something bigger. "What is this?" he asked. "The reason you're here," Magdalena said. Elon set the journal down. "Tell me." Magdalena took a slow breath. "When Clara started working at your company, she barely had enough to pay rent. She was a single mother, raising a daughter alone, working nights just to survive." She glanced toward the door, where footsteps sounded in the hallway. "But after listening to you every night, watching how hard you worked, she believed in you. She believed in your company. And so, she invested." Elon's jaw tensed. "Invested?" Magdalena nodded. "With every spare dollar she had, she bought shares in your startup. Not much, but enough." A young woman stepped into the room. She carried a shoebox, her hands careful, almost reverent. She looked at Elon with intelligent, steady eyes. "This is Olivia Barrett," Magdalena said. "Clara's daughter." Olivia gave a small nod. "My mother used her investment returns to build this place," she said. Elon stared at her, then back at the journal, then at the shoebox in Olivia's hands. Inside, he knew were more answers, more truths he had never seen, and more reasons why this night was far from over. Elon watched as Olivia placed the shoebox on the desk. The cardboard was worn, edges slightly frayed, as if it had been handled countless times. "This belonged to my mother," she said softly. "Before she passed, she told me to bring it to you." Elon hesitated, then lifted the lid. Inside, stacked neatly, were letters, some in yellowed envelopes, others folded without one. A small flash drive rested on top. "She wrote to you for years," Olivia continued, "but she never sent these." Elon picked up the first letter. The handwriting was precise, deliberate. He unfolded it carefully. "January 15th, 2000. Mr. Musk, you don't know me. I clean your office every night. While you work, I listen, not in a way that invades privacy, but enough to understand that you are building something important. I see your focus, your frustration, your moments of doubt. 3 months ago, I took my savings, $2,876. It wasn't much, but it was everything I had. I bought shares in your company. I did this because I believe in what you're creating. I can't build rockets or code software anymore, but I can invest in those who do. Not for wealth, not for power, for my daughter, for kids like her who struggle to fit into a system that wasn't designed for them. If your company succeeds, maybe I'll have the chance to build something that helps them. Clara Barrett." Elon's grip tightened on the paper. He took a slow breath, then reached for another letter. October 3rd, 2004. "Mr. Musk, my investment has grown, more than I ever imagined. Tonight, I signed a lease for Horizon House. A small space, but it's ours. 6 students to start, kids who were called problems in school. But I see something different. They remind me of you. I remember watching you solve problems no one else could. These kids do the same, just in different ways. I wonder if you'd be proud of what you unknowingly helped create. Clara." Elon looked up at Olivia. "She built all of this with stock in my company?" She nodded. "Every dollar of profit went into Horizon House. She never took luxury trips, never bought a new car. She saw this place as her purpose." Elon reached for another letter. This one was newer, the ink bolder. March 12, 2024. "Elon, I don't have much time left. The doctors say cancer moves fast. Horizon House is in trouble. The building is being sold, and I don't have the funds to fight. My investment returns are gone, spent on keeping this place running, on medical bills. I never wanted to ask for help. This was my work, my responsibility. But now I'm asking, Not for me. For them. You don't owe me anything. You never did. But if you read this, I hope you understand what grew from the seeds you planted long ago. I trust Olivia to show you everything. Do what you will, Clara. Elon swallowed hard. The weight of her words sat heavy in his chest. He turned to Olivia. She never reached out? She wanted to, Olivia said. But she was afraid you wouldn't remember her. That it wouldn't matter. Elon shook his head. It matters. His eyes drifted to the flash drive. He picked it up. What's on this? Olivia folded her hands in her lap. Videos. Stories of the children Horizon House helped. Their lives changed because of what she built. Elon turned the drive in his fingers. He had spent decades changing the world in visible ways. Yet the greatest impact, one he had never even known about, was quietly shaping lives in a corner of Oakland. He exhaled. This isn't over, he said. Elon set the letters down. His thoughts raced. The weight of Clara's words still lingered, but something else now took hold, urgency. Magdalena cleared her throat. There's more you need to know, she said. Elon leaned forward. Tell me. She exhaled slowly. Horizon House is being shut down. We have 30 days before this building is taken from us. Olivia tightened her grip on the shoebox. A developer bought the property. We received the final notice last week. After that, it's gone. Elon's jaw tensed. Who's behind it? Magdalena and Olivia exchanged glances. Then, Olivia spoke. Raymond Donovan. Elon's expression hardened. The name was one he hadn't heard in years, but he hadn't forgotten. Raymond had been there in the beginning. A partner, an ally until greed split them apart. He had wanted fast profits. Elon had wanted innovation. Their falling out had been ugly, public, and final. And now Donovan had resurfaced. This isn't just about real estate, is it? Elon asked. No, Olivia said. He's been tracking your legacy for years. And when he found out about my mother's investment, her connection to you, he moved in. Elon clenched his fists. He's trying to erase her. Magdalena nodded. It's personal. He wants to bury Clara's story, erase what she built, and make sure no one remembers how she helped you. Elon looked around the room. The walls lined with children's artwork, the worn bookshelves, the simple desks where young minds were shaped. He had spent years fighting battles in boardrooms against competitors, governments, entire industries. But this wasn't business. This was personal. He stood abruptly. Not on my watch. Elon pulled out his phone and dialed. Dominic answered immediately. Sir, I was about to call. I need everything on Raymond Donovan and his company. Elon interrupted. Every deal, every acquisition, especially this property. Full investigation. Now. A brief silence. Then Dominic's voice, sharper now. Understood. What are we looking for? Anything that ties him to targeting my connections. If this isn't just business, I want proof. Yes, sir. Elon ended the call and turned to Olivia and Magdalena. I'll buy the building, whatever it costs. Donovan won't win. Olivia's shoulders eased slightly, but Magdalena shook her head. That solves today's problem, Mr. Musk. But what about tomorrow? Elon considered that. She was right. Saving one place wasn't enough. This isn't just about one school, he said. What Clara built, her methods, her approach to education, it shouldn't disappear. It should grow. Olivia's brows furrowed. What do you mean? Elon's mind was already racing. We make Horizon House a model. A network of centers that help kids who don't fit traditional schools. We take Clara's vision and scale it. Magdalena blinked. You're talking about changing education. Elon nodded. Not just saving this place. Making sure it never needs saving again. A pause. Then Olivia spoke, her voice steady. My mother would have liked that. Elon exhaled. Then let's do it. A crowd gathered outside Horizon House. The morning sun cast long shadows as journalists adjusted their cameras. Parents stood alongside former students, waiting. The air buzzed with quiet anticipation. Elon stepped forward. Microphones pointed at him, lenses focused. He glanced at Olivia and Magdalena, then back at the faces in the crowd. 6 months ago, he began, I received a mysterious phone call in the middle of the night. What I discovered changed everything. The crowd listened. He continued, Horizon House is more than a school. It is a second chance for children who learn differently. A place where intelligence isn't measured by standardized tests, but by innovation, creativity, and perseverance. Murmurs of agreement spread. This place was founded by Clara Barrett. Some of you may not know her name, but you should. Years ago, she worked as a janitor at one of my first startups. Listening, learning, investing. Gasps rippled through the audience. She believed in my company before the world did. And with the money she earned from that investment, she built this. Elon paused, letting the words settle. But she never asked for credit. She never sought recognition. She only wanted to change lives. He turned to Olivia. And she did. He faced the cameras again. Horizon House will not be torn down. In fact, it will grow. Today, I'm announcing the Clara Barrett Foundation for Educational Innovation, expanding her vision worldwide. What started as one school will become a model for the future. Applause erupted. Olivia wiped her eyes. Magdalena nodded in approval. Elon's voice lowered. The greatest impact often comes from those we overlook. Silence. Then, a standing ovation. Elon stepped away from the podium, letting the applause settle. The story had been told, but its impact was just beginning. Now it was your turn. Some stories change the way we see the world. Clara Barrett's story is one of them. A woman who saw potential where others didn't. A woman who believed in a vision before it was proven. A woman whose quiet actions shaped the future. But how many Claras go unnoticed? How many stories never get told? If this story inspired you, let it be heard. Hit the like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? What part of this story moved you the most? Because stories like this don't just exist in the past. They are happening right now all around us. And sometimes all it takes is one person to believe in something before the rest of the world does. Until next time,